everybody. My name is Amir Beneshov.
Shelly Gupta.
Miguel Herrera.
Brenda Klinda.
Matthew Mitchell.
And Ronnie Neri.
Guys, I would like to create my profile. Do you think I'm ready for that?
No. By the end of tonight, everybody in class, as well as Amir, through 5 swipes, will be able to create a better profile through our Exec app.
Okay, but if I know more about physical appearance, facial expression, handshake, about how to speak with a confident voice, and about body movement, do you think I will be ready?
Yeah? Yes.
Yes, most definitely.
Okay, guys, please, can you teach me? Brenda, can you tell me how I can improve my physical appearance?
Thank you, Amir. Of course I can. Okay, guys, let's fast forward a few months from now. You've graduated from this great university. Your future is bright. But wait a minute. You're having trouble landing your dream job? You don't get it. Your resume is up to par. Your LinkedIn profile is great. Your pop is even outstanding. But no fish are biting. What could it be? Let's start with your physical appearance. Don't judge a book by its cover. Show of hands if you heard your mom say that once or twice. I know my mom did. It's 100% true, except when you're looking for a job. Let's get one thing straight. The people that are judging you think you should be like them. The interviewer also thinks you should be a good fit for their organization. Think about it this way. If you start your own business, who's the potential person you would like to have? Unfortunately, dress rules are not clear. You're just expected to get it by looking around and see what everyone else is doing. That's a recipe for disaster. Not only clothes, but jewelry and grooming habits can be interpreted. Here are some examples of what somebody can interpret from this dress. Shirt flopped out of pants, no control. Hair long and tangled, no control. Doing these things risks your credibility. Essentially, prospective candidates need to present themselves better so that the recruiter perceives them as having all that is needed to succeed. Another way of doing that is to make sure you're dressed formally, but normally. In Murdy's article, Change Job Market, the art of successfully navigating through job interviews, he cited a few incidents that he witnessed. One was a male candidate who perhaps the first time he wore a suit, being a recent college graduate, he was uncomfortable the minute he sat down, kind of wiggling around in his seat, swirling in discomfort. To which a fellow interviewer noticed and asked him to loosen his tie and be at ease. The point I'm making is that we have to be at ease to attentively listen and respond to your questions intelligently. It's critical that you are formally, but also normally. But stay true to yourself. I'm going to show you a video that'll show you the do's and don'ts of what to wear at the workplace.
Ready for some real talk? We are always being judged by what we wear and how we present ourselves, especially in the workplace. And 60% of employees make assumptions about their coworkers simply based on their appearance. So who knows what our clients or customers are thinking? At the end of the day, our clothing communicates a message. So why not use that to your advantage and send the right message to win that sale or that promotion? Bottom line, you'll be more respected by your boss, colleagues, and customers. So the big question is, what should you wear? Here's Alex. Is Alex going to the office or the company picnic? He's going to the company picnic. But if he switched out those ripped jeans for a pair that aren't distressed and changed his t-shirt to a button-down with an iron collar, he would be good to go for a meeting at the office. Here's Jessica. Is Jessica going to the office or downtown for happy hour? She's going to the office. Look at how structured her dress is. The more structured, the more professional. But remember, ladies, at happy hour, you can have a little more fun. Here's Camille. Is Camille going to a client meeting or a Sunday brunch with her girlfriends? Sunday brunch for sure. This piece is on the casual end and really should be worn outside of the office. The more flowy, the more casual. We know that sometimes it's hard to figure out what you should or shouldn't wear, especially with all the options that are out there these days. To give you a nudge in the right direction, download our wardrobe matrix from the attachments tab, our little gift to you. Now there's no excuse not to go out there and rock it every day when you step into the workplace.
Okay guys, in that video, it showed you a few things. It showed you what to wear at a work picnic, happy hour, and most importantly, the proper attire to wear at work. Let's move on to our activity. So everyone should have this in front of them. And you will pretend that you're an HR seat and your next candidate is about to show up. I want you to take a minute to write down 3 things you just learned to look out for, either positively or negatively, for physical appearance. As an example, I would write down, a candidate walks in with his shirt tail untucked. He or she is showing no control. You have 1 minute. You guys have 30 seconds. Okay guys, let's wrap it up. Now, let's take a look at our exec tab. Let's see, we have 2 matches, Amy Schumer and Meghan Markle. Amy Schumer is a comedian. She is age 37. Meghan Markle, formerly an actress, now a duchess, age 37. Let's take a look at the physical appearance we have here. Amy Schumer, she's lacking consistency in her appearance. Her hair is up, showing control. She has minimal jewelry. Let's take a look at her dress. She's not really matching. Her shoes are kind of questionable. She's kind of showing a little bit too much leg. Let's take a look at Meghan Markle. Her overall look is consistent. Her hair is up and not out of control. She has minimal jewelry. She's also wearing an all-black outfit, neutral colors. Clothes are tailored to fit her body. Who would you swipe on? Meghan. We thought so too. So we swiped right on Meghan. All right, guys. This actually reminds me of something that happened to me a few months ago. I recently was promoted from a satellite location to my corporate office. At our satellite location, we have a lot of residents or customers coming in between the hours of 8 to 5. So our dress was more professional attire. My first week at our corporate office, since there weren't people coming in, residents, customers, no one was really coming in, just our coworkers there. I noticed that the atmosphere at the office was a more relaxed look. So during my first week there, I had to interpret the unwritten code at our company. In the same company, I had been there for 4 years prior. Now that we went over physical appearance, you think you got it, Amir?
I think I got it.
All right, now I'll pass it on to Matthew, who will speak about facial expressions and eye contact.
Thank you, Brenda. All right, so facial expressions, some reasons why they're important. They're gonna allow you to control your mood. So facial expressions don't only show what you may be feeling inside, but you can also control your mood by establishing a new facial expression. I'll show you a video in a little bit that talks a little bit more about that. Next, facial expressions can show composure. So if you're leading a team of employees and things are getting stressful, maybe you're not meeting a deadline, you want to look composed to that team. And then build trust and convince others. Eye contact, crucial. You can't get your message across and you can't get people's buy-in without giving proper eye contact. So how do we do these things? Well, observe. We all watch TV. We all talk to other people. So it's good to just learn facial expressions, learn the micro differences between them. And then next, practice. We all did a video introduction in this class, so some of us may be familiar with how we look. Some people use Snapchat, so that helps too. But look in the mirror, learn your facial expressions. If you don't have a baseline, how can you improve on it? And then next, evaluate. So in the video, Paul Ekman talks a little bit on controlling emotions, but he also completed a study in Papua New Guinea. So what he did is he showed islanders a picture of the standard Western facial expression of fear. Now what the islanders saw is that they were showing aggression. So it's important to evaluate people's reactions based on your facial expression. Let's take a look at the video with Paul.
One of the most amazing discoveries that completely surprised me, and that's what I like most in research, is when you learn something you didn't know you're going to learn. That's very different from research where you prove something you think you already know. You have to do that too, because maybe you were wrong. But when you discover something you didn't expect, that's really exciting. And what we discovered, published this in more than 20 years ago, made the front page of the New York Times. We didn't kill anybody. What it did was show that if you put on your face one of the universal expressions, you will turn on the physiology of emotion. You will begin to experience that emotion. So the face is not simply a display system that tells you what's happening inside me. I can self-generate any emotion by making the movements on my face. Now some of them are harder to make than others, and wouldn't you know it, the one that's hardest to make is the one that turns on enjoyment, because a smile alone won't do it. You have to be able to activate one of the muscles around the eyes, and only about 10% of the people we've tested can do it.
So that's why it is important to practice. Anyways, let's break back into our groups and let's come up with 2 to 3 things that you would be looking for if you were an HR representative or you were conducting an interview. Take about 1 minute to come up with these. Thirty seconds. Okay, cool. Hopefully we have 2 to 3 things to look for with facial expressions. Now let's see how they compare with some matches. All right. I know. So Ted Cruz on the left here, and then Beto O'Rourke on the right. So let's first look at Ted Cruz. Of course, politician. He's age 47. In this image, I say he looks a bit worried. Definitely not addressing the audience. He may be looking at a painting or something, but not the audience. Now, Beto O'Rourke here on the right, he looks confident, maybe even like kind of joyful, you know? And he's definitely addressing his audience. So, based on these 2 images here, who do y'all think wins? So, all his facial expression stuff, it actually reminds me of a time I was at Walmart. So I see a guy, he's walking down the aisle to the registers, and it's the weirdest thing, he's doing this thing with his face, like almost like he's trying to smile, like work the smile muscles. And at the time, I didn't know what he was doing, but in hindsight, and with some of the research I've done with this presentation, I think what he was trying to do was evoke an emotional state, get ready for the workday. So, Amir, you think you have it ready?
I think I got it. Thank you.
Awesome. Ronnie will now cover how to do a proper handshake.
Thank you, Matthew. So let me tell you guys why a handshake is crucial. First of all, a handshake will be something that people either remember or don't. Let me ask you guys, how many of you guys remember a good handshake that you've had with somebody? Okay, a few of you. How many of you remember a bad one, like a terrible one? Okay, exactly. See, that's what I mean. You're more likely to remember a bad handshake than you are to remember a good one. Another reason why it's important is that it sends good nonverbal cues to the person you're talking to and shaking hands with. For example, a good handshake will make the other person interpret that as you being pleased to meet them. A bad handshake will cause the other person feel as though you're not putting an effort into building a relationship with them and that you really aren't pleased to meet them. In short, a good handshake conveys a message about your interaction with the other person. So lastly, we have confidence. A good handshake conveys how confident you are when you're meeting people. It's important that you approach new situations with confidence and that other people see that. It's not about being the most dominant figure in any interaction, but about presenting yourself as a leader. So now, let me teach you how to perform a good handshake. So first, you meet hands with the other person. You do not reach out to grab their hand at their side, as this can seem kind of invasive and disrespectful. A little bit too close to their personal bubble there. This is also known as the yank and can actually make the other person feel uncomfortable. Next, apply an appropriate grip to the other person's hand. Do not feel as though you need to crush their hand to convey confidence, because what you'll end up doing is actually achieving the opposite of what you're trying to do. By crushing their hand, you're sending nonverbal cues about yourself, being insecure, and you feel as though you need to overcompensate for it by crushing their hand. That's not the point. That's not what you want to do. And lastly, you want to hold the shake for an appropriate amount of time. This is typically for about 3 to 4 seconds. If you pump hands for longer than that, unless for a photo, you can make meeting someone for the first time very awkward. So give about 2 to 3 pumps and then let go amicably. So now I'm going to show you guys a video of handshakes given by current President Donald Trump and former President George Bush. So notice the differences between the two. What I want you guys to take away is how much attention George Bush receives compared to how much attention Donald Trump receives.
Donald Trump has been risking on the top handshake. Yet his Supreme Court nominee or his VP, if you will, the pull-in, the tug, the yank and pull, the grab and jerk. When he did it to a winner of The Apprentice, it seemed like a tug of war.
Donald Trump can't shake hands, right?
The more he likes you, the more he tugs and shakes. Body language expert Chris Ulrich says President Trump starts with a submissive gesture.
His hand is open, almost putting his own hand in like a beggar's pose, giving the other person the upper hand.
But then he reasserts his dominance.
He literally pulls people off their feet, off their balance for a moment.
So, do you guys see what I mean? I mean, if your handshake is so bad that a news network has to make a video specifically about it, you're doing something wrong. So, now let's take a moment to do the activity portion of the handshake. Take 1 minute. If you were an HR representative, what are 3 things that you would look for in a candidate coming in to shake your hand? You have 1 minute. 30 seconds left. All right, time. So now that you've seen how they shake hands, let's compare their executive profiles. So on the left, we have current President Donald Trump. His occupation, president, age 72. He uses the yank, he pumps your hands repeatedly, and he also holds your hand for an extended period of time. On the right, we have George W. Bush. Occupation, former occupation, president, currently retired, age 72. He uses a firm handshake. He conveys a lot of self-confidence, and he also holds your grip for about 4 seconds. Based on the video that you guys saw, who would you guys choose? We're going with Bush. All right. So we're going with Bush because he exhibits all the traits in having a good handshake. And as Team 4 mentioned, you need to, in order to build credibility, you also need to tell a personal story. So let me tell you guys one. I currently work at a Chase Bank, and the branch that I went to on my first day, I got there and it's professional etiquette to meet your coworkers, meet everyone around you, so I go and shake their hands. And as I'm coming around, the bankers all had really confident handshakes. You could tell that their people skills are really good. And I go around, to one of the tellers, and when I reach out to him, this is what ends up happening. And I didn't know what to do. I stood there and I held his hand for longer than I should have. And before I could even think about it, I looked at him dead in the eyes and I said, "What are you doing?" And it was rude and it was not something that I wanted to say, but in that moment, I just did not know how to say it. Is this making you uncomfortable? Yeah? Okay, so
I feel like Donald Trump right now.
yeah, so that's how I felt. I mean, I'm still holding his hand. You're getting more uncomfortable, right? Yeah, so eventually, when he processed what I had said, he corrected his hand and then we shook hands like that. It's pretty good. But I still remember how badly he shook his hand. So that's what I'm trying to get you guys to understand, that if you shake hands with somebody really bad the first time, that's going to stick in their heads. And that happened months ago, and I remember it very clearly. So, Amir, do you think that you can shake hands now?
I got it.
Awesome. All right, so now I'm going to pass it on to Miguel, who will speak to you about speaking with a confident voice.
Thank you, Ronnie. Now, as Ronnie's demonstrated, having a good, firm handshake is an important key feature that you want to have. But just as important is speaking in a confident voice. For the first reason being, that's how you're going to get your message across. If people can't hear you, you might as well not be speaking. You should stand there and just maybe speak sign language if you can. But another reason being, at some point in your career, as you're raising through the ranks and through leadership, you're going to have to present your ideas or even someone else's ideas into a particular group. You may not be a subject matter expert on what you're talking about, but if you speak with a confident voice, you'll retain your credibility, if not be able to improve on it. And lastly, leaving a lasting impression. If you speak in a monotone voice, people are going to drown you out. They're going to be like, okay, I can't wait till it's over. I'm not going to listen to his message. Even if it's something significant, your message is lost. The number one way to speak with a confident voice is by rehearsing. Practice, practice, and practice. The more you practice what you're going to speak, your speech, don't just stick to a script. Trying to memorize your script, you're going to flub it, things are going to come up. The key thing with that is keep to your key notes. Walk through it, key point to your falling key point. In addition to practice in front of a group of friends, someone you feel comfortable with, who you'll feel also comfortable with getting feedback from. That's one of the best ways to improve and speak in a confident voice. And finally, don't just elevate your volume just to be loud. Loud noise, it distracts from what you're trying to say. You want to maintain a good, consistent tone, low pitch, consistent cadence. So when you speak, it's the flow. You want people to be able to feel what you're saying and speak. The following video is going to show the two spectrums of what sufficient practice and being overly passionate can result in.
Committee, good evening, and thank you not only for your attendance, but for allowing me the opportunity to speak. My name is Bill Davidson, and I am seeking my party's nomination for the position of Stark County Treasurer on November 10th. November of 2010, excuse me. In terms of my background, I am from the village of Minerva, where I am serving my 13th year of elected service as a Minerva Council member. In terms of education, I have a bachelor's degree in sociology, a bachelor's degree in history, a master's degree in public administration, and a master's degree in communication. In terms of elections across Stark County, I have represented our party twice on the county ballot, in both the primary and the general elections, when I ran for Stark County Clerk of Courts in 1996 and Stark County Commissioner in 2000, and I will not apologize for my vote tonight. I have been a Republican until it's good, and I have been a Republican until it's bad. I get a chance to get something back. My challenge is the shortest seminar I usually do is 50 hours. And I'm not exaggerating. I do weekends, and when I do more than that, obviously coach people, but I'm into immersion, because how'd you learn language? You didn't learn it by just learning principles. You got in it, and you did it so often that it became real. And the bottom line here, besides being crazy mofo, is that I'm really in a position, I'm not here to motivate you, obviously. You don't need that. And a lot of times, that's what people think I do, and it's the furthest thing from it. What happens, though, is people say to me, well, I don't need any motivation. And I said, well, that's interesting. That's not what I do. I'm the why guy. I don't know why you do what you do. What is your motive for action? What is it that drives you in your life today, not 10 years ago, or are you running the same pattern? Because I believe that the invisible force of internal drive activated is the most important thing in the world. I'm here because I believe emotion is the force of life. All of us here have great minds. You know, most of us here have great minds, right? I don't know if I'm in the category, but we all know how to think. With our minds, we can rationalize anything, we can make anything happen. We can, I agree with what was described a few days ago with this idea that people work in their self-interest, but we all know that that's bullshit at times. You don't work in your self-interest all the time. Because when emotion comes into it, the wiring changes in the way it functions. And so it's wonderful for us to think intellectually about how the life of the world is, and especially those who are very smart. We can play this game in our head, but I really want to know what's driving you, and what I'd like to maybe invite you to do by the end of this talk is explore where you are today for two reasons. One, so that you can contribute more. And two, so that hopefully we can not just understand other people more, but maybe appreciate them more and create the kinds of connections that can stop some of the challenges that we face in our society today. They're only going to get magnified by the very technology.
As you can see, very different ways of being, both emotional, but different approaches of taking it and using their particular voice. Now go ahead and take the next minute to jot down 3 items as an HR rep that you want to go ahead and jot down that prospective new interviewee you want to identify. 30 seconds. And time. Now, hopefully you guys were able to jot down 3 key attributes that you want to look out for prospective interviewing regarding confident voice. Now, moving on to our matches, we have Phil Davison, who's a former deputy mayor, who was in the video, and Tony Robbins. Obviously, Phil Davis, he had the credentials needed for his particular office, but he loses his credibility because he gets overly emotional with his speech and becomes a distraction. And he's confrontational with the audience when he's saying he's not seeking forgiveness for his particular tone. While on the other hand, we have Tony Robbins, who has done countless seminars, put in the time, done the practice. He's relaxed, he's comfortable. It's as if he's having a conversation with the audience. And that goes with his particular language. Everything seems friendly, and when he has to show emotion, it doesn't change his pitch that much, but it's authentic. So who are we gonna go ahead and swipe for? Tony Robbins. Correct. Now, I've pretty much had this baritone voice since I've been in middle school at a young age. So my personal story, but I didn't use it efficiently growing up. It took me until my time in the military, when we're calling cadence, running cadence, calling commands, being able to lead physical fitness formations, where you may have a battalion-sized element listening and waiting for what you need to hear. And commonly, in the chaos of war, what they say, if you can't hear a command, you were lost. Communication is the key to victory, essentially. Maintaining communication. And you have to be clear and concise in what you say. So, Amir, do you think you can speak with a confident voice?
I think I can.
All right. Now, I'll be followed by Shelly, who will be speaking over the importance of body.
Thank you, Miguel. So just to put the little bow on the present, I'm going to talk about body movements. So yes, like body movements, it's something that tends to be very overlooked. It is like what I mentioned, the bow on the present, because it's just a small little thing that, again, tends to be overlooked, underrated. But it tends to send a lot of nonverbal cues and sets an impression about who you are as a person. So for example, if I come in, I'm slouched over, I'm just like, whatever. You're gonna think I'm not confident, I'm not attentive, I'm a little bit nervous. Granted, if I was standing straight, I'm looking at all of you, I'm confident, I'm attentive, I'm kind of curious what you have to say. So that kind of brings me to my first point. Body movements show confidence. And how can we improve our confidence? Is by having proper posture. So again, sitting straight or standing straight. So also another thing about body movements tend to help release tension. So when people are nervous, they tend to shake their leg, or they tend to pace back and forth to overcompensate for their nervousness. So instead of doing that, move your hands around. So hands are a good vehicle of releasing tension. Rojas's article in Advances in Computational Intelligence states that it is human nature that we need another vehicle to release our tension through. So that is, what you can use, what would be appropriate, is your hands. And then moving on to my third bullet. Body movements help connect with your audience. My video that we're gonna watch in a minute is gonna help show you how you can keep yourself open.